You don't lack discipline. You lack a threshold. There's a version of you that wakes up before the alarm, moves with purpose, and doesn't negotiate with himself before noon. You've seen him. You've felt him show up for maybe a day, maybe 3. Then he disappears, and you tell yourself it's motivation. That you just need to find the right motivation. But that's not it. The man you want to be isn't hiding behind a better morning routine or a cleaner diet or a YouTube video at midnight. He's behind 21 consecutive days of choosing difficulty when everything in you is screaming to stop. And you haven't crossed that line yet. Every single day you don't make that crossing, the gap between who you are and who you're capable of being gets one day wider. That's the part nobody tells you. It's not static, it's moving. Let's talk about your actual days right now. Not the idealized version, a real one. You wake up tired, not the kind of tired that disappears after coffee, the heavy kind, the kind that sits behind your eyes and makes the first hour of your day feel like you're moving through wet concrete. You check your phone before your feet hit the floor, not because you want to, but because the silence is louder than the noise. And somewhere around 10 a.m., when you should be sharp, you crash. Mental fog rolls in. You can't finish a thought without your brain pulling you sideways. The tab switching, the half-done tasks, the list that keeps growing because you keep starting things and finishing nothing. You recognize this. It's you. And then there's the other layer, the one you don't talk about out loud, the Sunday night dread that arrives around 8 p.m. when the week ahead starts looking like a wall instead of a road. The feeling that everyone around you is building something and you're watching from outside a window. Not angry about it, just hollow, like you're treading water in a pool that's slowly getting deeper, and you haven't told anyone because you can't quite explain why you haven't just started swimming. Here's the cruelest part. None of this is dramatic. Nobody around you can see it. You're functional. You show up. You're probably even described as doing fine. But you know the difference between existing and building. And you know which one you've been doing. Every day, you face 2 choices. One that builds your future, one that keeps you exactly where you are. The brutal truth is, your normal isn't neutral. Your normal is erosion. Every day of the same pattern is a vote for a smaller life. So why does this keep happening? Why does every attempt collapse around day 4 or 5? Why can every man in history summon a burst of effort, but almost none can sustain a transformation? The answer is behavioral activation, and the absence of it. Your brain is not designed to want what's hard. It's designed to conserve energy and repeat what's familiar. When you try to change behavior, your brain doesn't experience it as growth. It experiences it as threat. The old neural pathways are deep, grooved in by years of repetition. The new ones you're trying to build are thin as thread. And your brain, trying to be efficient, keeps defaulting to the groove. It's not weakness, it's not laziness, it's architecture. But here's the part they leave out. Behavioral activation research shows that action precedes motivation, not the other way around. You will not feel ready before you start. You will feel ready because you started. The signal that tells your brain, this is who we are now, only fires after the behavior, not before. You've been waiting to feel like a different man before you act like one. But the feeling comes after the repetition. That's not weakness. That's neuroscience. And here's how you fix it. Most people who start a 21-day challenge make it to day 7. Want to know why? Because on day 7, the discomfort hasn't faded yet, but the novelty has. You've lost the excitement of beginning, and you haven't yet felt the reward of building. Day 7 is a no man's land. The fact that you're still watching this video tells me you've been to that no man's land before. I'm going to give you the map out of it. This is the 21-day dangerous framework. Not dangerous as in reckless. Dangerous as in a man who has built his own spine is genuinely dangerous to every version of himself that was comfortable being mediocre. There are 7 pillars, not 7 habits. Habits are things you adopt. Pillars are things you build your entire structure on. What most people do wrong is they try to overhaul their entire day on day 1. New sleep schedule, new diet, new workout, new morning routine, all of it at once. Their willpower budget runs out by Tuesday. Not X, 1 hour. The science is simple. Willpower is a finite resource. Research on ego depletion, the psychological term for decision fatigue, shows that every choice you make erodes your capacity for the next one. Trying to transform 10 behaviors simultaneously means every single one gets a fraction of your available resolve. 1 hour, owned completely, is worth more than 10 habits managed poorly. So here's the prescription. Pick 1 hour, the same hour every day, before anyone else wakes up if possible. That hour belongs to one thing: movement, learning, building, creating, whatever your version of the work looks like. Guard it like you'd guard your front door. Not some mornings, not most mornings, every morning of the next 21 days without negotiation. The man who controls his first hour controls his day. The man who controls his day controls his life. That's not poetry. That's compounding math applied to time. Here's where most men get it wrong. They join a gym because they feel bad about themselves. They go 3 times, see no results, and quit. They were treating their body like a project, not a weapon. Your body is not a problem to be fixed. It is a tool to be sharpened. The distinction sounds subtle. It is not. When you exercise to fix a flaw, you're chasing a moving target. When you train to build a capability, you're stacking wins. Every session, no matter how small, is evidence. Evidence accumulates into identity. Identity is what makes the behavior permanent. Here's the prescription. Every day for 21 days, move your body in a way that requires you to override discomfort. Not destroy yourself, override. 30 minutes of intentional physical stress, a run, a lift, a circuit, where at some point you reach the edge of what's comfortable and cross it by 1 step. That's it. You don't need to become an athlete in 3 weeks. You need to prove to yourself 21 times in a row that you are the kind of man who chooses discomfort over ease when it matters. Viktor Frankl said the last human freedom is the freedom to choose your response to any situation. Physical training is practicing that freedom in its most primal form. Every rep is a vote for who you're becoming. You are not distracted because you lack focus. You are overfed. The modern man's brain is drowning in dopamine, not from experience, but from consumption. Every scroll, every notification, every video recommendation is a tiny hit of novelty that trains your brain to prefer stimulation over engagement. You scroll not because you're bored. You scroll because you've trained your brain to be chemically dependent on the motion of it. And the cost is your ability to sit inside a difficult thought long enough to do something about it. The prescription: for 21 days, you designate your first hour and your last hour as phone-free zones. No consumption before the work. No consumption before sleep. That's it. Not a social media detox. Not deleting everything. 2 hours a day where your mind belongs to you instead of to an algorithm. If you want clarity, reclaim your attention. If you want momentum, reclaim your mornings. If you want peace, reclaim your nights. The most rebellious thing a man can do in this era is own his own attention. Every morning of the 21 days, before comfort, before coffee, before your phone, before the news, you do something hard. Think of it this way. A cold shower at 5:30 a.m. is not about the cold shower. It is about what happens in the 2 seconds before you turn the water cold. In those 2 seconds, your brain presents every reason not to do it. It is warm in here. You're tired. What does this even accomplish? And then you do it anyway. You've just practiced overriding your brain's default setting. You've practiced that in the safest, most controlled environment possible. And then you carry that muscle into every other decision of your day. Comfort is not the reward for hard work. Comfort is what you sacrifice in order to earn something worth having. Not a journal, not a gratitude list, an accounting. Every night, 3 questions. 1. What did I do today that future me would respect? 2. Where did I choose the easy path when the hard path was available? 3. What is the one thing tomorrow requires of me that I cannot afford to skip? That's it. 5 minutes. The man who reviews his days honestly and adjusts is not the man who stumbles into change. He's the man who engineers it. The Stoics called this the evening review. They believed that a day unexamined was a day surrendered. Don't surrender your days. You will become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. This is not a motivational quote. It's a neurological observation. Mirror neurons in the human brain literally rewire your behavior patterns based on repeated exposure to the people around you. For 21 days, you don't need to cut anyone off, but you do need to notice. Notice who lifts the ceiling of what you believe is possible for yourself. Notice who, even subtly, even without meaning to, lowers it. This isn't about judgment. It's about architecture. Your environment is either building you or eroding you. There is no neutral ground. The most underestimated environmental variable in any man's life is not his city, not his job, not his income. It's who he allows to define the ceiling of normal. This is the one most people skip because it requires vulnerability, and most men have been trained since childhood that vulnerability is the same as weakness. It is not. Accountability without stakes is just intention, and intention without action is the story of every man who had a great plan on January 1st. For 21 days, tell one person what you're building, not for their approval, not so they can cheer for you. So the cost of quitting is higher than the cost of discomfort. The trapeze artist doesn't need the net because he's planning to fall. He needs it so that the possibility of falling doesn't stop him from flying. Strength shared is not strength diminished. Now, here's what nobody tells you. Around day 10 or 11, something is going to happen that has nothing to do with your circumstances. You're going to wake up and feel nothing. Not tired, empty. No momentum, no motivation, no sense that any of this is working. The bed will feel heavier than usual. The hour you carved out will feel pointless, and a voice in your head, calm, reasonable sounding, will say, maybe this isn't for you. Maybe you're the kind of person who tries things and doesn't finish them. Maybe the old way was fine. This is called the Valley of Silence. It hits between days 9 and 14 for almost every man who attempts any real change. Neuroscience tells us that new neural pathways go through an awkward phase before they stabilize. Old patterns are weakening, new ones aren't solid yet, and the brain experiences this as a kind of fog. It's not failure. When this happens, and it will happen, you have one job. You don't motivate yourself. You don't look for inspiration. You just execute the minimum of the system. 1 hour, movement, the evening accounting, not perfectly, just present. You hold on to one anchor. The fact that you felt this before and survived it means the discomfort is workable, not terminal. The moment it feels impossible is not a sign you chose wrong. It is a sign that the old version of you is losing its grip, and that grip is the only thing standing between you and the man you've been trying to become. Let it fall. 21 days from today, same day of the month, same city, same name, You will be different in ways that are quiet but permanent, not louder, calmer, not more impressive to other people, more settled in yourself. You'll walk into rooms with less noise in your head. You'll make decisions faster because the negotiation with yourself will have gotten shorter. You'll look in the mirror one morning, probably a Tuesday, probably before most people are awake, and notice something in your eyes that wasn't there before. Not pride, certainty. Not because life got easier, because you stopped fighting yourself. That's the real transformation nobody advertises. Not a six-pack, not a bank account number, a man who is no longer his own obstacle. That version of you is 21 days of honest effort away. Not perfect effort, honest effort. It's not your fault that the world was designed to keep you comfortable and compliant. Every algorithm, every convenience, every frictionless delivery to your door was built to make sure you never had to do anything hard. The system is not malicious. It is indifferent. And indifference will consume you if you let it. But it is your responsibility, fully, completely, without exception, to decide that you are not a product of the environment you were handed. That responsibility doesn't expire. It doesn't take days off, and it doesn't wait for the right moment. You are capable of this, not in a motivational poster way, in a literal, neurological, human capacity way. You are built to adapt to difficulty. That capability doesn't need to be installed. It needs to be activated. If this landed, if something in here felt uncomfortably accurate, drop the word dangerous in the comments right now. Not for me, for you. Because writing that word is the first act of a man who has decided to stop watching and start building. The algorithm will thank you too, but honestly, that's secondary. Subscribe if you are the kind of person who decides to become harder to ignore, not to the world, but to yourself, because that's who this channel is for. Every video here is built for the man who is done being a spectator of his own life. And if you want to know what happens after the 21 days, what you do when the challenge ends and the real work begins, that video is already made. It's called the identity lock, and it's the difference between a good month and a different life.